Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. We've got week 1 for NFL DFS on DraftKings and FanDuel coming up really soon. I've got a lot of videos out already on the topic on week 1. You can look at the quarterbacks video, the running backs, the wide receivers. I've got a way too early first look for both sites that's already posted. On this video, we're going to talk about the week 1 top stacks. I'm going to go through 8 or 9 different quarterbacks or 8 or 9 different teams, talk about the pass catchers we can stack them with, in my opinion, some that are going to be really highly owned, some that'll come in at a little less ownership, and then I've got a couple that I think are off the reservation, tournament stacks only. You want them nowhere near your cash games that are completely boom or bust. They might end the day with like a combined 20 points as a stack, but they might end the day with a combined, 60 points as a stack. And if that happens, then all of a sudden you're in a really great shape to take down a tournament with a low owned stack or projected low owned stack that scores a ton of points. So if you guys are new to the channel, please subscribe. Make sure that you ring that notifications bell, drop a like on the video, and let's just get to it. I'm not going to concern myself with Lamar Jackson. Right? He's a 500-pound elephant in the room. We know that he is an amazing player. I don't think that we have to stack Lamar Jackson. You can go naked Lamar Jackson. Anytime there's a rushing quarterback, you don't have to stack him. But it's too expensive to stack him outside of like a Marquise Brown or an Andrews situation. You can certainly do it. I'm not against doing it. But unless we get some more value on the slate, I want to be able to stuff in a lot of the other players that are high quality plays as well along with this stack. I just don't want to go completely stars and scrubs unless that presents itself, which makes me want to come down in salary a little bit. So somebody like Russ Wilson, this Seattle and Atlanta game is one that I'm going to be focusing on, and a lot of other content providers will be focusing on as we continue this march to the regular season. Russ Wilson is who we're going to build the first one around. We're also going to talk about a Falcon stack. So a couple of things, because I was talking with chat. I'm always recording these live on Twitch, so there's a link down below in the description. Definitely come on over and so I can get to know you. If you guys like these YouTube videos, I stream the preseason right now about 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then during the season 6 days a week, every single weekday morning, and then Sundays right before lock. We're going to start this with Russ Wilson at 7K, because this game, the Falcons and the Seahawks, right now currently on the DK Sportsbook, is the second highest total on the day, and it's got a spread of 1. They're expecting an extremely close game, and we have very short market share trees. We have very short target trees for both of these teams. We know where the ball's going when it comes out of the quarterback's hand at least 60% of the time from Russ Wilson. Not 60, at least 50% of the time from Russ Wilson. Let me just put it to this game, right? Since we're talking about stacks only. It's going to go to one of DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf led the league in terms of end zone targets in 2019, and Tyler Lockett wasn't far behind himself. Also a really high volume target with the highest leverage target on the field, the end zone target, as Russ has always looked to his outside wide receivers as much, if not more, than any other quarterback in the league. Quarterbacks tend to target their bigger targets, the guys inside. They might throw a fade route to a really big wide receiver, which is where DK Metcalf kind of lives, but also a guy like Tyler Lockett, who's small, who's not a heavy wide receiver, you would think would cede a lot of end zone targets to tight ends, but he doesn't. He gets his share. He was in the top 10 last year, maybe the top 5. I'd have to look it up exactly. Don't quote me on that, but he was very high on the list of players with end zone targets last year. Now, you can single stack or double stack with your quarterback. Your choice, depending on how hard you want to go in a tournament. This is mostly a tournament strategy. You can play this with, we talk about leagues games, 10-man leagues, 5-man leagues, 20-man leagues, 100-man leagues. It's definitely a good strategy to try and capture as much upside as possible. I'm probably not going to double stack in those smaller league type formats, but I will single stack. I will also talk about what's called a bring back player. So if you don't understand what the philosophy of a bring back player is, there is correlation between a quarterback and his pass catcher or pass catchers, right? If the pass catcher has a multiple touchdown day, the quarterback also had a multiple touchdown day and will probably exceed his value expectation for that day, unless he threw for like 120 yards with 2 touchdowns and all of them went to this one particular guy. So if the quarterback has a big day, has 3 touchdowns with 300 yards, and the wide receiver has 8 catches for 120 and at least 1 touchdown, that correlation is key. What happens on the other side of the ball also correlates. The wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 or tight end 1, depending on how much of the market share of targets that player gets on the other side of the ball, also correlates with the quarterback on the first team. So Russ Wilson technically correlates with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, or very possibly Hayden Hurst. I'm not saying to play all 3 of them in the lineup with Russ Wilson, but take your pick. The most popular one, in my opinion, is probably going to be this. The Wilson to Metcalf, bringing it back with Calvin Ridley stack. You can mess with this any way that you want. You can go double stack with 1, right? You can go Tyler Lockett here. You can also put Hurst as the double, 1 + 2 + 2 with 2 Seahawks and 2 Falcons, hoping for a complete shootout in this situation. You can go with a complete game stack and an onslaught by doing that. If you think that this game is going to be something like 35-38 and all of the touchdowns are going to come through the air because you don't trust the ground games for either team. So I think that this Russ Wilson stack is going to be extremely popular. I also think the same when it comes to Matt Ryan. The Falcons are not going to be a team that leans on the run as heavily as most other teams in the league. We see this happen every single year. Matt Ryan and the Falcons operate through the passing game. We saw it with Hooper last year, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and now they've lost Mo Sanu. They got rid of Hooper. They replaced him with Double H, Hayden Hurst, and we still have Julio Jones, who's an absolute monster, and Calvin Ridley, who should see an uptick in terms of his target percentage in 2020 versus 2019. So we know where the targets are going to go. We also know that he throws it 51, 45, 39, 50, 46. I'm going to be the first to tell you, you're going to hear this from me a lot. Efficiency and not volume is the greatest predictor of quarterback scoring in fantasy. Every other position, it's volume based. Running back, I want somebody who's going to get me over 20 touches and have involvement in the running or in the passing game. Wide receivers, I want guys with a possibility of double-digit targets, right? Volume is key. Same with tight end. I want volume of targets. I want volumes of red zone looks. I want volume of end zone targets, all those sorts of things. Volume, volume, volume at running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Quarterback, volume doesn't necessarily lend itself to fantasy scoring. Efficiency matters more. What is his touchdown percentage? How many passes is he completing? That also goes towards the stack and how good can that stack be. But when both meet, right? When you have a quarterback who is as efficient at throwing the football as Matt Ryan and also throws it a lot, 46 throws in a game is a lot. 53 throws in a game is a lot. They do it when they're playing from ahead. They do it when they're playing from behind. They just don't slow down and they don't run the ball a ton. You have the opportunity for a 300-yard game. You have the opportunity for a multiple touchdown game with Matt Ryan, which then lends itself, in my opinion, the best to a double stack with this quarterback because there's enough completions to go around. There's enough attempts to support it. There's multiple touchdowns in over half of his games last year to support you going with 2 targets. There are 3 very viable targets for him, and those 3 in order are Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Hayden Hurst. I would play 2 of them with Matt Ryan in a tournament gleefully in week 1. I think Julio Jones will definitely carry ownership in week 1. I think Calvin Ridley will carry ownership in week 1. I think Ridley will have a higher percent number than Jones because of his lower $1,600 lower salary. And Hayden Hurst will be the other guy that they're going to bring it back with. I think that Lockett will be owned, but I think that DK Metcalf will be more. This will probably be, in my opinion, the most popular stack in week 1 for tournaments. The Matt Ryan to Ridley and or Hurst with DK Metcalf bringing it back on the other side. The next most popular stack, in my opinion, is another team that's facing off against somebody that really has problems defending certain things. It's going to be Carson Wentz and his Eagles. We have plenty of options that we can have him throw to. We have another option on the other side to bring it back with, one very viable one. Let's highlight that game really quickly. Where are you? Come on, Washington football team. There you go. So Terry McLaurin, all of a sudden, immediately is going to be my bring back player in pretty much all of my Carson Wentz lineups. If he doesn't go off, it's going to sink all those Wentz lineups. I'm fine with that. I might have a few that don't have him, but like he's going to be in the vast majority of all of my Wentz stacks. On the other side of the ball, Deshaun Jackson, Jalen REAGOR has to play. He has to play, and he's going to play outside. We also have Zach Ertz and Goddard. These are the three top options, in my opinion. You can also use Sanders in those stacks, as he is very involved in the passing game, so you can get more correlation with a Sanders-Wentz stack than you might think. There is a thing called the correlation matrix, which shows you how correlated is a quarterback to all the other positions on his team. It's good and it's bad, right? Overall, it's very good. I'm not saying it's 50% good, 50% bad. Let's not make that mistake. But it takes into consideration every running back that has ever played with every quarterback. And when you look at it on that broad a scale, there's going to be a negative correlation between running backs and their quarterbacks. But when you have somebody like Miles Sanders, who last season, without complete full-time duty, was getting pretty much a consistent 5 or 6 targets a game, you now have somebody who correlates better. This is the beginning of the season when he wasn't as involved. End of the season when he was basically the guy. 6 targets a game and you're getting volume. So I'm not going to shy away from Sanders in any of my Wentz stacks. In my opinion, Sanders will be the highest owned player in week 1, at least where we sit right now. It is the 17th of August. Things can obviously change, especially this year with COVID-19 and the injured list for COVID-19. If somebody else that is a high tier back, that is a high volume back, is suddenly missing, and then all of a sudden the guy behind him is 4,500 and is going to get a lot of carries and touches and targets, that guy might probably shoot ahead of Sanders in terms of ownership for week 1. But as we sit right now, I think Sanders will be the highest owned, and I'm not going to shy away from him in Wentz stacks. DJ is going to be somebody that people are going to go after for the tournament possibilities that he brings. He just needs to do it on one catch. If he catches 160-yard touchdown, all of a sudden you've exceeded value. If he catches anything more than that, which he probably should, then he's going to just smash value. But he's not the guy that I want most in this stack. If I'm going to play a wide receiver in this stack, it's going to be Jalen REAGOR. The rookie, this kid is going to be on the field at 4,300. I think he should see more targets as more of a possession type receiver, but has deep ability as well. So more volume for him as Djax runs his 9s and opens up the field with a quarterback that can be as efficient and voluminous as Wentz is. But Zach Ertz is going to be the guy who leads the team in terms of targets every single week. This is where I'm probably going to want to go. And at 5,800, DraftKings definitely prices down the tight end. So you don't have to really pay top tier dollars to get somebody that has the upside of a 30-plus point game, 27 in week 12, 28 in week 9, and a lot of weeks in the teens ranges from 13 to 19, where at his price point, he's paying you off with the possibility of tournament winning upside. REAGOR could vary between 4 and 8 targets a game, and we just don't know where he's going to fall. So there's a wide range of outcomes for him. So in my opinion, this is going to be your top stack with Wentz, going with Ertz and Sanders, bringing it back with McLaurin, or at least the most popular stack with Wentz. You can go with the other routes. They obviously have more boom-bust possibility. Those are the 3 highest owned stacks that I think are in play for week 1. Couple of other stacks that I definitely want to talk about with you guys before we, get out of here. I've got a bunch more that I want to hit on. This game definitely has a chance to shoot out with the Las Vegas Raiders going to Carolina. Neither team has a really good defense. Both teams have offensive playmakers that we can target. Christian McCaffrey, another running back in that mold that has high correlation with his quarterback because he's going to get double-digit targets so damn often, right? What was that, 7-8 games last year where he had double-digit targets? Absolutely insane. The quarterback prices on these are not very high. Bridgewater under 6K. I would have rather him been 5,300, but it's not going to kill you. Obviously, you're going to have to find value guys and somebody to bring it back with who's not very expensive. And they've done a good job of pricing up guys like Ruggs, who's at 51. I'm probably going to want to go with DJ Moore in this stack because I think that he is going to be the highest volume guy. For tournaments, they're saying, just like every season, that Curtis Samuel, this is a guy that I absolutely love the talent. I'm excited about the fact that they're probably going to use him, or it looks as though from early camp and practice reports that they're going to utilize him way differently than last year. Now with Robbie Anderson being the outside 9 guy, they're going to use Samuel more in a way that he was utilized in college, which means more balls underneath, more out of the slot, get the ball to him in space and let him create and let him get down the seam and go deep. I'm fine with that. So I absolutely love the price on him at 4,600. Makes for a great tournament play here. Looking at the Raiders, probably not going to pay up for the Gazelle at 5,500. I know, hashtag brand. Al always wants to play Terrell, but I don't know if I'm going to do it at this price. Coming back here, definitely has tournament winning upside, clearly, because he can get deep. Ruggs as well as a rookie at 5,100 against Carolina. Their defense is terrible. They're going to be a defense that we stream against all year long, but at tight end, 5,900 is Darren Waller. You know the volume is going to be there. We should see an uptick in terms of his touchdown production this year. He was utilized so much last year with his receptions and yards, and there is a stickiness to predicting tight end scoring or touchdowns that goes along with how many yards that they get. It is one of the most predictable stats in football, right? That if a tight end is getting X amount of yards, they should score X amount of, or Y amount of touchdowns. So for the amount of yards that Waller had last year and the amount of yards and usage that he got inside the red zone and the end zone, he should have had way more than 3 touchdowns. I expect that number to kind of bounce this year. I'm not saying he's going to have double-digit touchdowns, but 3 seems like it's going to be out of the realm. Something like 6 or 7 seems way more realistic, and at 5,900, easy to plug him into this stack. You can do this even without a wide receiver and open yourself up to the value wide receivers somewhere else on the list. A high dollar one, and this is a game that we're probably going to want to stack based on the environment, the players in it, the productivity, and that's this New Orleans Tampa Bay game in the Dome. It's going to be pricey to do this. It's going to be even more pricey to do that. I don't know if we can bring this back reliably with somebody on the other side unless more value opens up, unless you believe that somebody like Justin Watson playing in the slot this year, and they're saying he's impressing in 3 wide situations. The Buccaneers also said they're going to run a lot more 2 tight end sets this year, so I don't know how many snaps somebody like Justin Watson is going to get, but he is one of the bright spots in camp if you believe the coach speak that's coming out of Tampa Bay. He is the value option that you could plug in here. You might not be able to bring this back. You might have to just make your peace with that unless you want to do it with a tight end, leaving you 4,400 plus a defense that you can go cheap on here. But this Breeze, Kamara, Thomas stack is one that I try to have exposure to anytime they're playing in the Dome in my allocation across 150 teams. Obviously, not everybody who watches this video is mass multi-entering and playing 150 lineups in a weekend to try and take down the Millionaire Maker or the Slant or whatever else. If you're playing 20 lineups, if you're playing 10 lineups, the rule still is there. If New Orleans is playing in the Dome and they're playing against a defense that's going to allow them to complete passes, you want to have exposure to somebody like Drew Brees and his pass catching options. No, he's not throwing it 50 or 60 times like he used to per game, but you know where those targets are going to go. One, they're definitely going to go towards Michael Thomas, who, as we look at in home games versus away games last year, averaged 28.9 DraftKings points as opposed to 19.9 on the road. Drew Brees, same thing pretty much every year. Home games, 25.3 DraftKings points. On the road, 15.6. Kamara doesn't see, or historically has not seen, that same split. He averages more games or more points per game on the road than at home, but still extremely consistent in and of itself. But this Breeze Thomas stack is absolutely outstanding. Looking at the other side of this stack, it kind of becomes more realistic to be able to stack this. So if you go with not Breeze, if you go with Tom Brady, if you believe that he is going to have to play from behind, has a high probability of 300 plus yards, getting you the bonus on DraftKings, and we know that most of those targets are going to go to these 2 individuals right here, Godwin and Evans, I would pick one of these 2, bring it back with Michael Thomas, and call it a day. And see what I can fill in with the rest of this lineup, but you're going to have to find value at running back. And I think that the majority of people this week 1 that's coming up are going to want to pay for at least 1, if not 2, of Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Kamara, maybe Eckler, Josh Jacobs, Mixon, not Drake, but Sanders, right? So if they have one of these guys, that's going to drop their ability to play this stack. So this stack is virtually unplayable if you've got Christian McCaffrey in your lineup. This stack is a little more playable if you've got Dalvin Cook, but 3,900 average makes it extremely tough. So this stack right here forces you into a contrarian lineup build that other people may or may not be using. And I think it's going to lean towards may not be using. And if you can get away from that really high ownership percentage If this stack hits, you give yourself a much better chance than the other people that are running with the herd to get to the top of that payout chart, which is where all the money is, especially in the Millionaire Maker, with 20% of the prize pool going to first place, and a lot of tournaments that are priced 20 to 40% of the money going to first place. Couple of off the chart stacks for me. I know that you're going to cringe. YouTube, chill the hell out. Okay? There's a reason why these are low owned stacks. But when you take these things into consideration that I'm going to talk to you about, you can rationalize why they're going to possibly get you to the top of the GPP sheet. Baker Mayfield has the ability to throw for multiple touchdowns. He's 5,700, and you're entering a year where everybody's down on him. He could be a post-hype sleeper for you in a game where they're going to be facing off against, yes, a very good defense. But last year, Baltimore forced teams into negative game scripts more often than any team since 2011. I don't care how great a defense is if the other team is going to be chasing points the entire day. And it's not like they're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense back from when they won a championship, or the Ravens defense back from when they had Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and all those guys on it, where they were scoring 15, 16 points a game, right? It wasn't a situation where the defense said, look, offense, just score us 17 points and we'll win. That's not what this Baltimore defense is asking of their offense. Their offense is going to score 25, 30, 35 points a game, which forces the other team into throwing situations. And Baker Mayfield has a couple of targets that he can throw to, including a running back in Kareem Hunt. They are 9-point dogs in this game. You have 3 guys that you can very easily stack him with, assuming that Landry's going to be ready for week 1. I am. 5,900, 5,900. You get yourself a cheap stack or double stack here with 2 of these 3 individuals. If you want to work Hooper in, if you think that he's going to be the guy at 5,100, I'm not against that either, but I just typically don't play tight ends against Baltimore. Your bring back player in this stack is one of 2 guys, and it's very straightforward. It's Mark Andrews or it's Marquise Brown. Who was that? Jay Shan, thank you very much for the 13 months, man. Appreciate that resub. So you're going to pick 1 or 2 of the Browns wide receivers to go with Baker. You're going to pick 1 of the 2 Baltimore players to bring it back with. If we think that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to have himself a big year, or Landry's going to have an 8 or a 9 catch day on DraftKings where it's full PPR, it's very easy to make a lineup with high touchdown upside that looks something like this, that may not be highly owned. I think Brown will carry a lot of ownership. I don't think that people are going to play a lot of the Browns offense. 1, because of the numbers that are on the other side of it. This red number here, this red first, is going to steer people clear. This red 6 is going to steer people clear. And nobody's really geeked about playing Baker Mayfield, right? Nobody wants to do that. So this puts yourself in a position that if he throws for 300 yards, if he has 2 interceptions, throws for 300 yards, throws for 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns, that go to, and one of the guys that you pick, the pass catcher that you pick, has 1, if not 2 of those touchdowns, whether they're garbage time or not, they still count towards the tournament. That's one of my under the radar stacks for week 1. My other under the radar stack for week 1, and maybe it's not as under the radar as I want to believe, but the Miami Dolphins in week 1 against New England. Again, going against a defense that throws up all these red numbers. If Fitzmagic starts, we know what he can do in any given game. Against New England in week 17, 27 DraftKings points. They have the ability to throw for a lot of yards if Fitz is a guy under center. And the injuries that they have to this pass catching core has really whittled down the amount of players that can split the targets on the other side. If Preston is ready, I love Preston Williams this year, but right now you've got Parker and you've got Gesicki set to take down at least, let's say, 17.5 targets. If I set that as an over-under for week 1 going up against New England, do you think that they're going to get, with the receiving core that they have, over under 17.5 targets? I think that that's a pretty good line, and I think it's possible that you'd have to lay money to bet on the over there based on there's just nobody left. The third wide receiver on this team right now is Jakeem Grant at 3,900, who's somebody who has game-breaking speed, whether it's with a little bubble screen, whether it's a jailbreak screen, or whether they can hit him down the field, because you know that Fitzmagic does like to throw over the top of defenses whenever he has the opportunity to do so. And the missing pieces that are on that New England defense that sat out due to COVID-19 this season, this defense is going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be as dominant as it was last year. And we saw Fitz put up a 27-point game in week 17 against them. Very easy to bring back with anybody that you want on New England, depending on who's healthy. Obviously, their running back situation is tough with Michelle expected to miss week 1. James White is the better PPR back. Right now, it looks like Damian Harris might be the lead back for week 1, and he's only 4,300. The wide receivers, you can bring him back with Edelman. You can bring back N'Keal Harry, who's somebody that I prefer over Sanu. Second-year wide receiver who has the eye of Cam Newton if he is the quarterback that is the starter for week 1. A lot of options to go with, and this Miami stack is going to be low owned. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the next video, and I'll catch you later. Bye.
He's a legend.